The mockery begins. The Galactic Council had always viewed Earth as a backwater, a tiny speck in the vastness of space. It had been years since any of Earth's leaders had dared to challenge the might of the more advanced alien species. And now, as the galactic fleet assembled in the skies above Earth, their arrogance was palpable. Earth, what threat could they possibly pose? The alien commander, a towering figure of sleek armor and cruel eyes, laughed loudly. His words echoed through the room, and his fellow commanders joined in the mockery. They still rely on primitive warships, outdated technology from centuries ago. It's laughable. Their laughter was cold and dismissive, the kind that only the truly powerful can afford. They had seen what Earth's forces had, and to them, it was no more than a joke. The Galactic Fleet had conquered hundreds of worlds, each more advanced than Earth. So why should they worry about a planet that had only recently left its own solar system? The thought seemed absurd. At the center of the Galactic Council chamber stood the leader of the fleet, a creature with countless limbs, each ending in sharp, glimmering tips. He looked down at the screen before him, a map of the solar system, Earth marked by a tiny blinking dot. "Prepare to wipe them out," the leader ordered. His voice was emotionless, mechanical, and it sent a ripple of anticipation through the fleet. "We will crush their spirits, just as we have done to every species that dared to defy us. Earth will fall like all the others." The commanders nodded in agreement, already imagining the destruction that would soon befall the humans. They were certain there would be no resistance. Earth's ships were nothing compared to the might of the Galactic Fleet. After all, the humans were still in the early stages of space exploration, and their most powerful weapons were laughable to the advanced races that made up the Council. On Earth, the situation was different. Humans had been preparing for this moment for years, though few knew the full extent of what they had. The government, the military, and the leaders of Earth had kept their most powerful weapon a secret, hidden from the eyes of the galaxy. The people of Earth had no idea what was coming, but the leaders knew that the time for silence was over. In a dimly lit command center deep beneath the Earth's surface, high-ranking officials watched the Galactic Fleet approach. Their faces were calm, but their minds raced with the weight of what was about to unfold. General Catherine Marks, head of Earth's defense program, stood at the front of the room, staring at the holographic display. The Galactic Fleet was growing closer by the minute. The alien ships were massive, cruisers and warships the size of small moons, bristling with advanced weapons that could annihilate any planet in an instant. The human forces were pitiful in comparison, their ships small, outdated, and lacking the firepower to stand up to such an overwhelming force. "We've kept our silence for too long," General Marks said, her voice steady, but her words heavy. "It's time to show them that Earth is not as weak as they think." Her command staff exchanged glances, unsure of what exactly she meant. They knew their forces, knew how underprepared they were for an assault of this magnitude. They had always assumed Earth's best hope was to negotiate, to avoid war by playing the part of a humble species. But now, as the alien fleet advanced, they were beginning to understand that the time for diplomacy was over. A low hum vibrated through the walls of the command center as a hidden compartment in the far corner of the room opened. Inside, a strange and ancient technology, which had been secretly developed and stored for decades, was revealed. These were the dark matter warships, ships so powerful that their existence had been kept secret even from most of Earth's population. General Marks stepped forward and placed a hand on the console in front of her. The hum grew louder as the ships powered up, their systems coming online for the first time in years. These ships, built using dark matter energy, were capable of bending space itself. They could strike at unimaginable distances, with power that could tear entire fleets apart in seconds. To the Galactic Council, the very idea of such ships was incomprehensible. As the ships powered up, the Galactic Fleet began their final approach to Earth. The alien commanders, still mocking the humans, had no idea what awaited them. They prepared for the moment of victory, confident that Earth would fall just as every other planet had before it. There was no doubt in their minds. Earth was insignificant, and their fleet was unstoppable. But deep inside Earth's hidden facilities, the dark matter warships were ready. General Marks turned to her staff, her voice now filled with a chilling certainty. Activate the fleet. A single order was all it took. The hidden ships, scattered across different locations, began to rise from their resting places. The lights in the command center flickered, casting long shadows over the tense faces of the officers. The warships moved out of the shadows and into space, their dark silhouettes against the stars barely visible to the alien sensors. The galactic commanders, still laughing and celebrating, didn't notice the first signs of danger. But then, without warning, an alarm blared across the command center of the galactic fleet. Their sensors, which had been so confident moments before, began to spike. Something was wrong. Impossible. One of the commanders shouted. There's a ship, a human ship. It's coming straight at us. The fear in his voice was immediate, cutting through the previous arrogance. His words were met with disbelief from the rest of the commanders. Activate defenses. The Supreme Commander ordered, but it was too late. The human fleet had already arrived, and their ships were unlike anything the galactic fleet had ever seen. The ships that emerged from Earth's orbit were not just warships. They were Wrath incarnate, powered by the untapped force of dark matter. The alien fleet's sensors couldn't even detect them at first. They were hidden in plain sight, concealed by a technology that Earth's enemies could not comprehend. And just as quickly as the alien fleet had moved to destroy Earth, they now found themselves facing the wrath of humanity's most secret weapon. The tide of battle had turned in an instant. The galactic fleet had once been filled with confidence. Their commanders had no doubt that the battle with Earth would be quick, a mere formality. The alien forces were vast, their ships bristling with advanced weaponry, their strategies honed from centuries of conquest. They had crushed worlds much more powerful than Earth, so what could one small, primitive planet do against them? But the moment their ships came into contact with Earth's dark matter warships, the ground shifted beneath their feet. The first wave of human ships arrived at the edge of the galactic fleet's formation, emerging from the shadows of the planet's orbit. Their weapons activated, sending deadly streams of energy racing through the void. The alien fleet's sensors were overloaded, unable to calculate the sudden, massive energy spikes. The first attack came from an unassuming battleship, an ancient-looking craft that, at first glance, seemed far too small and outdated to pose any threat. But the alien ships were mistaken. The human ship unleashed a barrage of dark matter energy, and the impact was devastating. A massive explosion erupted from the alien flagship, followed by several smaller explosions across the enemy fleet. The galactic commanders stared in horror, unable to comprehend what they were witnessing. "What is this?" one of the alien commanders screamed, watching as their most powerful ship disintegrated into space debris. This shouldn't be possible. The flagship's shield had failed instantly under the assault. No weapon they had could even begin to compare to the destructive power of dark matter. The human ships, invisible to their sensors, continued to strike, each shot hitting with precision and devastating force. The once proud galactic fleet was in disarray, their ships retreating, scattering to avoid further damage. Earth's dark matter warships, though few in number, were powerful beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. Each ship was a living nightmare, powered by the very fabric of the universe itself. They bent space-time, manipulating gravity to create weapons capable of ripping through the strongest shields and annihilating entire fleets in a matter of seconds. Back at Earth's command center, General Marks watched the battle unfold in real time. Her face was calm, but her heart raced with adrenaline. She had always known that the dark matter warships were humanity's greatest secret, but seeing them in action was something else entirely. The force that Earth had hidden for so long was now on full display for the galaxy to witness. "Status report," she barked to her officers, her voice steady despite the chaos. One of the technicians quickly checked the systems. The fleet's energy reserves are stable. The warships are holding up well under fire. We're just getting started, General. Marks nodded, her expression unreadable. She had spent years preparing for this moment. Earth had always been underestimated, its power ignored by the Galactic Council and the greater galaxy. But no longer. The tables had turned, and humanity was no longer the prey. It was now the hunter. In space, the alien fleet was reeling. They had never encountered a weapon like this before, and their commanders scrambled to respond. It wasn't just the power of the weapons that shocked them. It was the sheer scale of the human fleet's strategic capabilities. The dark matter warships had been hidden so well that no one had expected them to even exist, let alone be used in such a decisive way. Reinforcements are on the way. The Supreme Commander of the Galactic Fleet growled, fury boiling beneath his calm demeanor. We will not let this insult go unanswered. But no matter how many reinforcements the Galactic Fleet sent, it seemed as though humanity's hidden armada could match them. The humans were relentless. Their ships didn't just attack. They seemed to anticipate every move the aliens made. The humans were acting with an efficiency, a precision, that left the galactic commanders baffled. A series of explosions lit up the dark expanse of space as the humans' weapons continued their barrage. The alien ships that were hit disintegrated, their twisted remains spinning in the vacuum, carried off into the depths of space by the force of the blasts. In the blink of an eye, entire sections of the fleet had been wiped out. The alien leaders, who had once been so confident of their victory, were now gripped by fear. They could see the destruction unfolding before them, and they realized that their assumptions had been wrong. They had underestimated Earth, and now they were paying the price. The idea that humans could harness such power, such unknown technology, was beyond their comprehension. They had never considered that a planet so small, so weak, could hide such deadly force. We need to regroup, one of the commanders urged, panic creeping into his voice. We need to rethink our strategy. This is not what we were prepared for. But it was too late. The human fleet had already adapted, striking at the most vulnerable parts of the alien formation. The Galactic Fleet's tactics, honed over years of conquest, were no longer effective against an enemy that was unpredictable and ruthless. Back on Earth, General Marks and her team watched as their hidden fleet decimated the alien forces. The battle was still in its early stages, but the results were already clear. Earth had struck a blow that would echo across the galaxy. Humanity's wrath had been unleashed, and no one would ever forget the lesson it carried. As the battle raged on, a chilling realization began to spread among the remaining members of the Galactic Fleet. They had underestimated the humans once, but now they saw just how wrong they had been. Earth was not to be taken lightly. And this was only the beginning. The battle between the Galactic Fleet and Earth's hidden warships had already sent shockwaves through the cosmos. What was once expected to be a swift, humiliating defeat for humanity had transformed into a nightmarish spectacle, one that every major power in the galaxy was now watching with growing unease. In the grand chambers of the Galactic Council, holographic projections displayed the carnage in real time. Alien diplomats, generals and rulers from hundreds of worlds sat in stunned silence as the battle unfolded before them. This cannot be real," murmured High Chancellor Vorin of the Drathian Empire, his three eyes fixed on the images of destruction. They were supposed to be primitive. How do they have this power? No one had an answer. The Galactic Council had believed for centuries that humanity was weak, insignificant, a race barely worth noticing. But now, before their very eyes, Earth's secret fleet was tearing through the galactic armada like a predator among prey. The dark matter warships, previously unknown to the rest of the galaxy, moved with terrifying efficiency. Each strike from their weapons sent entire capital ships into oblivion. Their cloaking technology rendered them nearly impossible to detect, and even when spotted, they maneuvered with an unnatural speed that defied everything the galaxy had ever seen. And worst of all, humanity had kept this power hidden. For how long? No one knew. But one thing was certain. Earth had been preparing for this moment for years, maybe even decades. Back on the battlefield, the Galactic Fleet's Supreme Commander, Velcor, clenched his fists as he stared at the carnage from his command deck. His fleet, once the pride of the galaxy, was crumbling. The humans had struck with ruthless precision, targeting command ships, energy supply vessels, and key logistical points, effectively dismantling the fleet's entire formation. Status report. He barked at his officers, his deep voice filled with barely contained rage. Admiral Grell's battlecruiser has been destroyed, one officer reported. The sci-fi squadron is in full retreat. Our heavy carriers have lost shield integrity. Another few strikes, and they will be completely exposed. Velcor felt his stomach twist. And the reinforcements? They're still 2 hours away, sir. 2 hours. At the rate they were being torn apart, there wouldn't be anything left by then. Suddenly, a new transmission came through, a message from the Galactic Council itself. A hologram of Chancellor Vorin materialized before Velcor, his face pale, his usual confidence shattered. "Commander," Vorin began, his voice tense, "pull back your fleet." Velcor's eyes widened in disbelief. "Pull back? You want us to retreat? There is no victory to be found here," Vorin admitted bitterly. "We underestimated them. We thought them weak. We were wrong." Velcor hesitated. He had never retreated in his entire career. The Galactic Fleet had won countless wars, crushed thousands of rebellions, and annihilated civilizations that defied them. But now, for the first time, they were the ones running. His pride demanded that they fight to the last ship, but his survival instinct whispered a painful truth. If they stayed, they would die. All of them. "Commander," another officer spoke, his voice trembling. "The human fleet is advancing. They're preparing for another strike." Velcor closed his eyes for a brief moment. Then, with great reluctance, he gave the order. "All ships, retreat." Across the battlefield, the remaining ships of the Galactic Fleet turned and fled. It was an unprecedented sight. An armada that had once inspired terror throughout the galaxy, now running like a frightened animal. But the humans were not about to let them escape so easily. From the darkness of space, Earth's hidden fleet continued its assault. Dark matter torpedoes streaked through the void, hunting down retreating ships like predators chasing wounded prey. Each explosion sent shockwaves rippling through the battlefield, and the screams of alien captains filled the galactic communications network. The galaxy watched in horror as their once invincible fleet was shattered beyond recognition. Some worlds rejoiced. Those who had long suffered under the Galactic Council's rule now saw an opportunity for rebellion. Others panicked, realizing that if humanity could do this to the Galactic Fleet, no one was safe. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the attack stopped. The dark matter warships ceased fire. They remained in position, watching, as the broken remnants of the Galactic Fleet limped away. It was not mercy, it was a message. Earth had made its point. Back in the Galactic Council chambers, silence filled the room. The reality of the situation had settled in. "This," Chancellor Vorin muttered, "this changes everything." One of the other council members, a reptilian warlord from the Zithian Dominion, spoke in a hushed, almost fearful voice. "We have mocked humanity for centuries. We exiled them from our trade networks. We treated them as nothing. And now they hold a power we cannot fight." The council chamber fell into chaos. Some demanded retaliation. Others argued for peace. But deep down, everyone knew the truth. Earth was no longer just a minor player in the galactic order. Humanity had revealed its hand. And now, the galaxy had to decide whether to fight them or bow before them. The Galactic Fleet had been shattered. What remained of their once mighty armada limped back to the safety of their home territories, humiliated and broken. The entire galaxy had witnessed the battle, and the fear in the air was palpable. No one had expected humanity to win, let alone dismantle the most powerful military force in known space. But the war was not over. Deep within the vast chambers of the Galactic Council, an emergency meeting was in progress. Holographic projections of representatives from hundreds of species flickered around the colossal chamber. Some looked furious, others frightened, and a few were deep in thought, considering the consequences of what had just transpired. "This is unacceptable," roared High Admiral Cyros of the Heller Dominion. His massive reptilian frame trembled with rage. "We must retaliate immediately. The humans have humiliated us, and we cannot allow this insult to stand." "Retaliate with what?" scoffed a sleek insectoid diplomat from the Vaxora Consortium. "Our fleets are in shambles, even if we gather every warship available. Do you truly believe we can stand against them? We didn't just lose a battle, we lost the illusion of our supremacy." Chancellor Vorin, the leader of the Galactic Council, remained silent as the debate raged on. His three eyes flickered between the various diplomats and generals, noting their fear, their anger, and their desperation. He had ruled the Council for decades, and never before had he seen them so divided. And then, the humans made their move. A transmission interrupted the meeting. The holographic form of an unknown human appeared in the center of the chamber. He was tall, dressed in a simple black uniform, with piercing blue eyes that held no fear. The council members fell silent as his voice echoed through the hall. "My name is Admiral Jonathan Reese of the United Earth Navy." The human introduced himself. "I come with a message from Earth." The council members braced themselves. "You assumed we were weak. You assumed we were primitive. And so, you treated us as nothing more than an afterthought. You mocked us. You cast us aside. And when we sought a place among the stars, you denied us. That ends now." Murmurs spread through the council. Some clenched their fists. Others lowered their gazes, realizing what was coming. "We did not ask for war," Reese continued. "But when it came to us, we did not run. And we will not run. The galaxy has underestimated humanity for too long. You saw what happened to your fleet. You saw what our warships are capable of." That was just a warning. A cold silence followed. The message was clear. Earth had held back. The battle that had already sent the galaxy into a state of panic was merely a fraction of what humanity was capable of. Admiral Reese leaned forward slightly, his gaze unwavering. "We are not conquerors," he said. "We do not seek to rule over you, but we will not be ignored. From this moment on, humanity is no longer your exile. We are no longer your outcasts. We are a power in this galaxy, and you will treat us as such." Chancellor Vorin's hands tightened into fists. He had feared this moment. Humanity had revealed its strength, and now they were making their demands. "What do you want from us?" he finally asked. Reese's expression remained calm, but there was an undeniable steel in his voice. "A seat on the Galactic Council," he declared. "A place among the ruling powers of the galaxy. No more sanctions, no more restrictions, no more mockery. From this day forward, Earth will stand as an equal among you." Gasps erupted throughout the chamber. A human. On the Galactic Council. It was unthinkable. It was outrageous. And yet, after what had just happened, was there any choice? Admiral Tyros slammed his fist onto the table. "This is madness. We cannot allow this." Reese's gaze turned to the furious admiral. "Then fight us," he challenged. "Send another fleet. Try again. See what happens." Cyros's mouth snapped shut. He wanted war. He wanted revenge. But the truth was undeniable. Another battle would only end in more destruction, more humiliation. Chancellor Vorin exhaled slowly. He had spent his life ruling through diplomacy and strategic alliances, but now he faced an opponent who wielded power he could not ignore. The humans were no longer a minor race. They were no longer insignificant. They had proven that they could stand against the greatest military force in the galaxy and win. If they refused humanity's request, war was inevitable. And this time, Humanity would not stop at mere survival. Vorin turned to the council members, his voice steady. "We will vote." Admiral Reese nodded, as if he already knew the outcome. Because in the end, the galaxy had no other choice. The Galactic Council was in turmoil. The shock of the battle had yet to fade, and now humanity had delivered its ultimatum. They demanded a seat among the ruling powers of the galaxy, a position that no lesser species had ever held. Many within the council saw this as an outrage, an insult, but others saw the truth. Humanity had the power to back their demands. Chancellor Vorin knew that refusing Earth's proposal would lead to war, a war the council was not prepared to fight. But agreeing to their demands meant accepting humanity as an equal, something that went against everything the galactic elite had built for centuries. The decision was not an easy one. The tension only grew when an emergency meeting was called aboard the Galactic Council's flagship, Eternal Dominion, orbiting the capital world of Velthera. Every high-ranking official, military commander, and diplomatic leader had been summoned. The fate of the galaxy depended on their choice. As the debate raged inside the council chambers, something far more terrifying was happening just beyond their sensors. Earth had arrived. A shadow loomed in the depths of space, beyond the reach of conventional scanners. Humanity's fleet had not returned to Sol. Instead, they had spread throughout the outer edges of the galactic core, positioning themselves like silent executioners waiting for a sentence to be passed. And then, without warning, they made their presence known. Across every major sector, human ships decloaked. They were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen before. Massive, ominous dreadnoughts that radiated an unsettling energy. Their hulls seemed to absorb light itself, giving them an eerie, ghost-like presence in the void. These were not the same warships that had devastated the galactic fleet. These were something far worse. Within minutes, every major planetary defense system, every orbital station, and every warship in the galaxy received the same message. "We are here." Panic erupted. Fleets scrambled into defensive formations. Planetary governors demanded to know what was happening. Spymasters and analysts worked frantically to determine how humanity had moved so many ships without being detected. But there was no time for answers. Inside the council chambers, the transmission played in real time. The representatives stared in horror as holographic displays lit up with images of the black warships looming over their homeworlds. The human fleet had already positioned itself within striking range of every major power. Vorin turned pale. How? How did they do this? A cold realization settled in. Humanity had always been one step ahead. They had never been weak. They had never been helpless. While the rest of the galaxy mocked and ignored them, Earth had been preparing, building, evolving. And now, the truth was clear. This wasn't a desperate bid for survival. This was a checkmate. The tension in the chamber was suffocating. The war-hungry species, the ones who had once laughed at the idea of humanity posing a threat, now sat in silent fear. The realization hit them all at once. If Earth had wanted to, they could have wiped them out before this meeting even began. Admiral Cyros, once filled with arrogance and hatred toward humanity, now struggled to find his voice. You were holding back." A new transmission appeared on the central display. Admiral Jonathan Reese, the same human who had delivered Earth's ultimatum, stood with an unreadable expression. "You wanted to know our strength," Reese said, his voice calm. "Now you know. No threats, no demands, just a simple statement of fact." The room was dead silent. Finally, Chancellor Vorin spoke, his voice trembling slightly. "And if we refuse your request?" Reese didn't answer immediately. He simply gestured to the massive fleet displayed on the holograms. The message was clear. After a long pause, he said, "Then the galaxy will learn what happens when you refuse a species that has spent centuries preparing for war." The council members exchanged nervous glances. It was no longer a matter of pride. It was survival. And they had just learned that humanity had been ready for this moment long before they even saw it coming. The air in the Galactic Council chamber was thick with tension. Every representative, every admiral, every high-ranking official present knew that the next few moments would shape the fate of the galaxy. On the holographic displays, the terrifying sight of Earth's hidden fleet loomed over their homeworlds, an unspoken warning of what would happen if they made the wrong choice. Chancellor Vorin gripped the armrest of his chair, his mind racing. The Council had always operated under the belief that they were the ultimate authority in the galaxy. No single species had ever challenged them in such a direct, undeniable way. Until now. Humanity had changed the rules. How do we know they won't betray us? Hissed Admiral Cyros, his voice barely above a whisper. His usual arrogance was gone, replaced by something that sounded almost like fear. If we let them into the Council, they gain access to everything. They'll grow even stronger. A representative from the Velrathi Empire, a reptilian species known for their ruthlessness, narrowed his golden eyes. And if we refuse? He glanced at the holograms of human warships, his claws clicking against the table. They've already proven they have the power to wipe us out. It would be foolish to challenge them further. Vorin exhaled slowly. We underestimated them once. I do not wish to repeat that mistake. Across the chamber, a massive display flickered, and the image of Admiral Jonathan Reese returned. His face remained unreadable, his tone calm but firm. The choice is yours, he said. But understand this, if you refuse, there will be no second offer. Earth will not beg. We will not negotiate further. Either we stand as equals, or we stand as conquerors. You decide. The words sent a chill through the chamber. This was not the desperate plea of a weaker species demanding recognition. It was the declaration of a civilization that had already won. Silence followed. For centuries, the Galactic Council had been the dominant force in the known universe. They dictated the rules, chose who thrived and who perished. The thought of sharing power with humanity was unthinkable. But extinction was far worse. One by one, the representatives signaled their votes. Some hesitated. Some cast their votes with barely concealed fury. But in the end, the result was clear. Humanity had won. Chancellor Vorin stood, his voice heavy with reluctant acceptance. The Council has spoken. By majority vote, Earth is granted a seat among the ruling powers. Across the room, some representatives looked relieved. Others seethed with quiet resentment, but none dared to object. Admiral Reese gave a slow nod, a wise decision. With a gesture, the human fleet began pulling back, vanishing into the void just as suddenly as they had appeared. The message was clear. They were not conquerors, at least not today. As the transmission ended, the Council chamber remained in heavy silence. The balance of power had shifted forever. The Galactic Council chamber remained eerily silent even after the transmission ended. Every representative, every admiral, every leader in the room understood that something irreversible had just occurred. For the first time in recorded history, an outsider had not just forced their way into power, but had done so without firing a single shot in this final moment. Humanity had not come as conquerors. They had come as something far worse, inevitable. Chancellor Vorin sat motionless in his seat, his mind spiraling with possibilities. He had spent decades navigating the treacherous political landscape of the Council, outmaneuvering rivals, brokering deals that shaped the fate of entire star systems. And yet, in a matter of hours, Earth had undone centuries of power structures, with nothing but a single demand and an unshakable display of strength. Their fleet had disappeared as suddenly as it had arrived, but the message they left behind was clear. They had been watching, waiting, preparing, and no one had noticed. The realization sent a ripple of unease through the chamber. What else had humanity been hiding? Vorin steepled his fingers. Admiral Tyros, he said slowly, breaking the tense silence. You commanded our forces in the battle against humanity, did you not? Tyros, The once arrogant warlord of the Galactic Armada was no longer the same man. His hands trembled slightly as he straightened in his seat. "I did. And tell me, Admiral," Vorin continued, his voice almost too calm. "You claimed Earth's forces were weak, primitive, that they could never rival us in open war." Zyros swallowed hard. He had mocked the humans, dismissed them as nothing more than an annoyance, a footnote in galactic history. And yet, when the battle came, it was humanity who had rewritten that history. "I was mistaken," Zyros admitted through clenched teeth. The chamber erupted in murmurs. "More than mistaken," snapped the Velrathi representative, his scaled hands gripping the armrest of his seat. "You nearly doomed us all with your arrogance. How could you not have seen this?" Thyros turned, his glare sharp. "How could any of us?" He shot back. "They deceived us all. For centuries, we monitored Earth, dismissed their technology, their fleets. We saw only what they wanted us to see." The murmurs turned to gasps as the truth settled in. Humanity had hidden their true power not just for years, but for generations. While the Galactic Council had expanded its empire, fighting wars with lesser species, subjugating civilizations, and amassing fleets, Earth had remained in the shadows, building something far deadlier. A fleet that could appear anywhere, strike without warning, and disappear before retaliation. A force that had already infiltrated the galaxy's most secure sectors. Vorin's expression darkened. "If they deceived us for this long, then what makes you think this is the end?" Silence. No one had an answer. Because they all knew the truth, this wasn't the end. This was just the beginning. Far beyond the galactic core, hidden deep within the dark void of space, the true strength of humanity remained unseen. The fleet that had appeared over the Council's homeworlds was not Earth's full force. It was a fraction, a mere glimpse of what lay beyond the known borders of the galaxy. In the heart of the Sol system, entire planets had been transformed into shipyards, churning out war machines that dwarfed anything the Council had ever built. Silent outposts drifted in the darkness, watching, waiting. Humanity had never been the weak, scattered species the Council had believed them to be. They had always been preparing. And now, the galaxy belonged to them, not through war, not through conquest, but through something far more terrifying: patience. They had waited until the moment was right. And now, there was no force in the universe that could stop them.